You're listening to Confessions of a Counselor podcast. Here we will talk all things mental wellness.
Hi everyone, it's Janice here and welcome back to Confessions of a Counselor. Today I thought we would continue to talk about change. So there is what we call the stages of change by Prochaska and DiClemente. So they have 5 stages of change, and this process is about how there's more to the change process than there is just action, right? So there's more than just doing the thing to change the behavior or the thought or whatever it is that we're trying to change. So today I thought we would talk about that and how I integrate those stages of change into the therapeutic process and help support the change that it is that we want to see in our lives, because oftentimes that's why people are coming into therapy. So when we're talking about the 5 stages of change, we have pre-contemplation, contemplation, preparation, then action. So just remember, there are 3 stages that are happening before we get to action. And then there's maintenance. So what is happening here is that before we even know that we want to change, there's a process happening. So this is the pre-contemplation stage. So this is where we might not even be aware that there is a problem. Or maybe someone has said, hey, have you thought about going to therapy? And we go, no, why would I go to therapy? That sounds like a terrible idea. So this is the pre-contemplation stage where others might be noticing that we need to change, or there might not be any awareness at all that change needs to happen. But this stage is actually really essential because it's recognizing that sometimes we are not even aware, right? We might have blinders as to the change that needs to happen. And that's why therapy can be a really helpful place, because sometimes it can point out those blinders. So next we move into contemplation. So this is where we start thinking, hey, maybe there's something that I need to change. So for example, you come into therapy and you're saying, oh, I'm really sad most of the time. And this is something that I'd like to work on, as something that I'd like to recognize and understand more and learn more about. But most of the time I'm feeling sad. So this is the contemplation stage. We start to thinking about change. And this stage too, I'm going to say it for all of them, is really important. This stage allows us to think about what it is that we want to change. So why do I want to change it? Why is it important to change? What does this problem look like to me? What would change look like for me? So this contemplation stage is really important. This is where we're asking lots of questions. We're getting really curious. We're starting to understand the process. And this stage really often gets missed, right? We think, oh, I need to change. Now I'm going to change my behavior. And we miss thinking about what it is that we want to change and why we want to change. And then change is really hard to maintain when we skip over this step. The next step is preparation, which goes hand in hand with contemplation. So once we've answered all of those questions, then it's really important to prepare ourselves for what change is going to look like. In my practice, I find that the people who actually allow themselves to go through the preparation period, which can be uncomfortable, and we often feel like we're not making any progress, and those clients will often beat themselves up for being in preparation, but those people who go through the preparation stage are more likely to stay in maintenance than those who do not go through the preparation stage. Okay, it's just my personal anecdote here of the clients that I've seen. So my clients who go through preparation are more likely to stay in maintenance. And here's why. Or why I think why. Is that we're prepared. You've allowed yourself to think about what might go wrong. Why might you not do this change? What is it that you want this change to look like? How willing and ready are you to actually make this change and stick with it? Right? So preparation really allows us to dig in and understand the process of change, right? Because change is uncomfortable. Even though we want to change, even though we want to jump to the action stage and just change the behavior, there's a lot of things that need to go into this changing of our life, particularly the work that we do in therapy, where we might be overhauling a lot of things, or we might be digging into some tender and sore spots of our lives where we need to create change. So when we're able to sit in preparation and actually think about, how am I going to do this? What am I going to do in order to create this change? And how am I going to overcome the obstacles that will show up when I start to create change? Then action is easier. So then we move into the stage of action. So this is exactly what it sounds like. We start to do all the things that we prepared to do in order to create that change. And this stage can be really uncomfortable because it's creating change, right? It's starting to do the work. And sometimes it feels like we're not moving, and we're very aware of the fact that we need to change and that we are changing, but it's not happening the way that we want it to, or said obstacle shows up, or people start to push back against our change, and all kinds of very, very uncomfortable things start to happen in the action stage. And what we need to do is be really gentle with ourselves and continue to show up and to do the things. And eventually we will move into maintenance, where practicing this skill or creating this change starts to become more natural. It's not something we have to think about every time. It's not something that's constantly on our mind. In fact, it starts to kind of run in the background. And it's just a part of how we show up and what we do. So maintenance is kind of that celebratory state. We can move a little bit more fluidly through these stages, go back and forth, jump from stage to stage, move around, because we're human and we're not two-dimensional. But these stages do need to happen, and we do need to be aware of the fact that when we decide to create change, it doesn't mean just jumping straight to action, that there's questions and preparation that need to happen in order for that change to happen.
I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Confessions of a Counselor podcast is available anywhere you like to listen to your podcast, both on Apple and Android. New episodes will be released every Friday. If you enjoyed this podcast, please feel free to join the conversation. Leave a review or subscribe to the podcast hosted on the Anchor app. All these details can be found at janicelyons.com. Until next time, take care.